news, and they talk about all of the crime and all of the horrors that go. Now, those are real. Okay, I'm a teacher. I taught in Brownsville. I retired 2 years ago. So believe me, all of that is real, but there's a reason why things are the way they are. Okay, it wasn't always that way, and it didn't happen overnight. So I believe in my heart that you have to tell your own stories. We have to tell our stories. If we don't tell our truths, nobody will know. Other people will tell our stories and change it to what they want it to be. Okay, so In Comes Mariah Seed was my first book, and I wanted to look at it from a spiritual point of view because as a very spiritual person, I hear my ancestors whispering stories in my ears. So I have to tell them. And I knew that even though things are bad there, like hope lives behind those project walls. I came from those project walls, so if I'm still here and I can do it, I know others can, and we have to encourage the kids, you know. And I wanted them to know their story. I wanted them to know a Brownsville that wasn't just about gangbangers and drugs and just shooting people up. So Passion's Pride is the second one, and watching the neighborhood just become a war zone, basically, is what the story I really wanted to tell. But I also wanted to make it known that we have to go back in history. So it begins at 9/11. 9/11 triggers Mecca's spirit, which has become detached from her, to want to get her attention and take her back in history so that she could remember who she is. And I think that's what we all need. The book is allegorical because all of those different things. Mecca is Mecca. Okay, when we come back to God, where we go to, and God is within us. So when you read it, if you're so kind, please think on that level that all of the names are definitely being used to tell you about something else. It's a double story. There's a triple story in there. They all represent different people. Okay, I have, I've been really blessed to have a really nice publisher, someone who saw my work and wanted to pick it up and wanted to publish it. The first book, I had really had a hard time talking about somebody not, you know, looking at your work. Sisters, I would go to black bookstores now, and try to push my book there. If there was a brother there, he'd say, yes, all right, I got you. If it was a sister, she would turn her head just like that. You know, no, sorry. You know, I'm like, wow, for real? Silencing black writers is silencing black history. Okay, that's that, and we can't afford to do that. You know, and I'm like, we have to stop being our own enemy. When are we going to let everybody know what we come from, who we come from, okay, and who we are? I was at one Kwanzaa Black Expo. Everybody who was sitting next to me was selling books about sex. So they walking past me. I don't want to hear about that. I want to see the, you know, did you see what's in this book? You know, I mean, some wild stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, I can tell. I want to reach your spirit. I want to talk to you about who we are and empower you, you know, with some beautiful words. And they're like, you know, well, I'd rather spend my money on the sex. And that was just so devastating to me that you rather and it was a mother and her son. Okay, and this is what she'd rather teach him about, you know. So we gotta get our thinking right, you know. It's about what we see as important. Okay, our mental and our spiritual health is very, very important, and we have to pull away from all the negativity and just think about what's going to really uplift us. It's going, you know, you're talking about people trying to find paradise on earth. What's so funny is that the life that people are seeking to have this beautiful life where all black people are taken care of, you know, all the white people, and we're supposed to stay in this mess, you know, that's what they brought us over here for. Okay, that's why we've never been full citizens, because that's what, you know, our ancestors were supposed to be, servants, always. You know, when the war was over and we were supposed to be freed and not slaves, they had a discussion about what to do with the Negroes, because they didn't really want us here. You know, and some people, as you know, some people went back. You know, but what we needed to know is that we need to want to be here, and we have paradise waiting for us, and we are spirits in having this human condition that we're dealing with. You know, you don't have to try to create heaven on earth. You are going to heaven. You know, you have heaven inside if you just reach for it, you know. So my book is really going to help you to see that there's hope. That's what I can't write something that's going to just be about the devastation. There has to be hope. I have to be able to instill some hope. And I have to be able to have, like, not just the women read it, but the men want it too. So I think it's, if you read it, would you think so, that it's even, that men like it as much as women? Because we have a hero and we have a shero, and we need each other. Because we're not going to have, there's no balance if it's just one and not the other. So I made sure that I had a strong black male image to go along with the strong female black image as well. Okay, and the children are strong as well. So this is a trilogy: Mariah Seed, Passion's Pride, and the next book is Miracle. Okay, so hopefully you'll support it, and it is beautiful to be here and to be able to introduce you to this. Please write your stories. I encourage everybody. There's so many amazing stories amongst us. When we start talking and we find out who is related to who, or who had a father or grandfather was in this war, or where the stories that we need to start honoring our stories and stop hiding them, because some people feel ashamed of what was done in the past. No, everybody's legitimate or you wouldn't be here, Everybody's legitimate, and your children need to know your stories. They need to know the stories. Well, my mom passed last year. She passed the day that my book was being published. And I felt like she was pushing that through, And when we told her story, I wrote her eulogy, I told her story. And my nieces and nephews said, I didn't know that about Grandma. I didn't know she did this. I didn't know she did that. And I realized, maybe she didn't tell her story, and she needed to do that. And sometimes you think you went through a whole lot of stuff, but the kids don't need to know about all of that. Or you may not feel like going back to it. Take some time and tell the stories, because that will empower them and it'll make them want to do what you did, because that's what they do. Of course, they do what we do. They don't do what they say. We all know that, but they do what we do. And as soon as I published my book, I took it to my classroom. That's the first thing I did. And I showed my students. I said, if I could do this, you could do this. Okay? If I could do this, you could do this. So now they're all in there trying to write too. My children were watching me. As soon as I published my book, my kids started with, Mommy, I want to write a book too. I'm going to write a book too. They're both writing books. We have to do that. And nobody's going to tell your story like you do. One of the most important things I wanted to do was to bring up historical events that occurred. I watched my neighborhood just go down, and I know that people told all kind of lies about why it happened. Okay, and if you could think back to 1968, if you were here, everybody remembers the strike. Okay, the teacher's strike, the very first teacher's strike where they closed down every school, every public school in the city. Okay, and they tried to say that the reason was because black people in Brooklyn were being racist, that we were being racist against the Jews. Okay, against the Jewish teachers, that we didn't want to teach our children. Okay, I was one of those kids going up there every day with my picket sign, but the people of the community just wanted a better education for their children. And as a result, the city turned around and started attacking Brownsville over and over again, and it's still going on to today. That's what happened to Brownsville. Okay.